Hey friends, Jordan Woods Robinson here from AMC's The Walking Dead and Blue Man Group, and this is PopXcast, where science fiction meets pop culture. We're a geek podcast for geek culture, so are you ready to get your geek on? Sit back, relax, grab some gluten-free, non-GMO popcorn, and let's dive into the world pop culture bliss.
I'm Josh Liston from On the Bubble Podcast, a proud member of the Gunna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all the other podcasts at gunnageeknetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You are listening to PopXcast, where science fiction meets pop culture.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
PopXcast. Hasta la vista, baby. By the power of Grayskull, Autobots, transform. Excelsior!
All right, and welcome everyone. This is PopXcast coming to you on this Sunday night, July the 8th, 2018. Mr. Austin Burke, what's up, my friend?
Joe, it's been a little bit, I say this every time, but it's been way too long since our last show, man. I have missed you. I've missed talking about movies, and we have another Marvel movie. Can you believe it? Third of the year.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's kind of surreal, actually. Just a little bit. So many Marvel movies and so much has hit us just alone in 2018. I mean, we've had a stellar... Have we had a year like this year?
I don't think so. And everyone has either been good or great. I don't think that has ever happened, but I like the trend we're on in 2018.
Oh, my gosh. Real quick, want to give a huge shout out to all of our friends over in the Facebook Live. If you're joining right now and you're watching, you can actually come and interact with us live. It's facebook.com/PopXcast. Or if you're lazy like me, you can just simply go to popx.live, and there we have the embedded feed where you can join us as well. Now, this week, we're going to be having a really cool thing. If you've just tuned in, you don't even know what in the world is PopX, what's this all about? Well, coming up on this episode of PopX, we're going to be discussing a lot of Marvel hero legend type stuff from the Ant-Man legacy, and it's going to be really crazy. You're going to love it. We're going to be talking about Ant-Man. We're going to be talking about the Wasp. And so if you've not seen the movie, we will roll the spoiler alert warning a little bit later on. Also, Indy 5. No, I'm not talking about the Indy 500. We're talking about Indiana Jones 5. We'll be talking about that a little bit. And we'll be also Comic Book Men No More. What?
Oh.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that as well. And also, we'll be definitely seeing some seeds that were planted in Ant-Man and the Wasp 2 for a future, and hopefully maybe the ending of the trilogy as they're wrapping it up, the Ant-Man saga. And last but not least, and one that kind of hits my heart a little bit, and I know maybe it even does Austin and Mike, is Won't You Be My Neighbor, the documentary that is in select theaters right now across the nation. I just saw it today, and let me tell you, it wrecked my life in a good way. In a good way. So we're going to be doing that as well. And Austin, real quick, how have you been? What have you been up to? Give us some updates on your amazing life.
My friend, it has been the fastest summer I remember in recent memory. I've been working, coming home. We just moved out of an apartment and moved 500 feet down the road to a brand new one. So that's been our weekend. A lot of carrying and heavy lifting, but we just put in the washer and dryer. That was the final touch. And man, I got a green screen room now, and I have all my lights set up, and it's like my little YouTube space. And thank God for my wife for letting me have this.
She's pretty awesome, right?
It's awesome, dude. I am so happy right now. But
you said it though. You said at the beginning of your statement, it's been fast.
Oh my God.
I think this summer is flying by, and it's already past July the 4th, Independence Day, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Wait. It was March. What happened to?
I can't believe it.
It was April and May and June. What happened? Anyway. You ready to kick this off, Austin Burke?
Buddy, let's do this.
All right. Say, guys, welcome to PopX, where science fiction meets pop culture. Now, I'm your host, Joseph Burke, Central Florida seasoned comic book nerd and retro enthusiast. Now, I'd like to welcome everyone joining us right now on our PopX.live and Facebook Live chat room. Now, come hang out with us and join the conversation for more stuff at PopXcast.com.
And I am Austin Burke, the Appalachian Geek at heart. Be sure to head over to Google Play or iTunes after the show. Click that subscribe button. Catch up on some amazing shows from the PopX archive. And while you're there, we'd certainly appreciate you showing us some love by leaving us a 5-star rating and or review. And if you guys missed episode 79, which, Joe, I personally think was an awesome episode, origin stories of Captain Marvel and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, check our official website at PopXcast.com for this and other great past shows from PopX.
Oh, man. I tell you what, this is such a great time to be a nerd, is it not?
Oh, my God.
I mean, there's so much to talk about. And the chat room's going live. Hey, guys, if you're joining us right now, be sure to share this, like it, get the reminders, and help us get it out there, okay? Share it to your feeds, and just spread it like a good old-fashioned kissing disease. I have no idea what I'm saying. All right. I have no idea. All right, so PopX News is coming up next. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Extra, read all about it. This is PopX News, coming to you live right here on PopXcast.com.
Oh, man. And we have to, of course, weigh the bad and the good. And unfortunately, we're coming to you this week with some very heavy news, some very sad news. A legendary comic book creator, Steve Ditko. Now, he co-created Spider-Man and even Doctor Strange along the side of Mr. Stan Lee, has died at the age of 90. Now, Ditko is responsible for imagining Spider-Man's iconic red and blue costume as well as his trademark web shooters. That all came from Ditko. With Lee, Ditko penned such enduring foes as the Green Goblin. Yeah, Ditko. Dr. Octopus, Sandman, the Vulture, all of whom have appeared in numerous Spider-Man movies that have earned a lifetime total of nearly $5 billion worldwide. Now, after the pair teamed on Amazing Fantasy number 15, Spider-Man's first appearance, by the way, a newly launched Marvel Comics spun the character off into his own book, The Amazing Spider-Man, which has published over 801 issues. Now, I have quite a few, but I have 800 and 801, as a matter of fact. And since its first issue, all the way back in 1963. Now, Lee and Ditko then conjured up psychedelic crime fighter Dr. Stephen Strange in the pages of Strange Tales number 110. Now, Dr. Strange made his live-action big-screen debut all the way back in 2016. I can't believe it's been that long. Yeah. Marvel Studios blockbuster that proved a worldwide hit, with the character going on to reappear in Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, where Spider-Man and Doctor Strange famously teamed as they have so many times in the Marvel comic books themselves. Wow. Oh, that's kind of a gut-wrencher. Steve Ditko was such a monumental force to be reckoned with in terms of creating and co-creating a lot of characters. Also, too, I want to say this on the record, he did a long stint at DC Comics as well, and he even created the Blue Beetle. Now, I don't know if you guys know the Blue Beetle. He's a very old-school, iconic character, but Steve Ditko was a workhorse. And, you think about all the legacies and the characters that Ditko has created over his lifetime of his 90 years. The sad thing is he kind of died alone in his apartment at age 90. That's sad. That's sad.
He was famously kind of a recluse. I mean, nobody really got his thoughts on Doctor Strange. Nobody got his thoughts on Spider-Man. We don't know how he felt the first time he saw his characters, his creations on the big screen. And that's, it's a sad thing to think about, but we lost one of the greatest to ever do it. One of the best comic book geniuses that's ever existed. So, it's a sad loss, and it's a tough loss because these characters we've grown up with and we love, and they've gotten us through so many, and I know you, Joe, through so many tough times, but to lose one of the guys that's responsible for it, it's a big deal. So prayers for everyone involved with his family.
It reminds me of the story of DC Comics creator Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Bill Finger and Bob Kane created Batman. There's a really great documentary about it over on Amazon Prime. But Bill Finger created the iconic Batman suit and was never credited, and died alone in his apartment on the east side of Manhattan, and he was never credited even after he died decades later. Finally, people like Kevin Smith, who done Comic Book Men and Jay and Silent Bob, pushed to fight to have Bill Finger's name mentioned beside Bob Kane's. So it's kind of sad for Ditko. You think about that with Ditko's legacy and stuff, and he just died alone in his apartment at age 90. And a guy who created legacies for generations to come and passed in such a lonely and I don't want to say disrespectful manner, but it's a little hard. But so moving on with some news, Mr. Burke.
Yeah, let's try to pump it up just a little bit. So it's anyone's guess what the Marvel Cinematic Universe will look like in the coming years. But one Marvel alum has a pretty specific idea in mind. In a recent interview, Leah Thompson addressed a recent revelation that she is pitching a Howard the Duck reboot to Marvel Studios. Thompson, who played Beverly Switzler in the original 1986 film, revealed that she still is optimistic about her pitch and that it will hopefully become a reality at some point in time. Thompson revealed that she was planning to pitch the reboot with the goal of having herself direct the project.
Wow.
Now that would be interesting. I'm not against her directing it. And as she went on to say, she believes that it would be significantly easier to make a new Howard the Duck a reality, especially after he debuted as a cameo in the first Guardians and then made an appearance in the second Guardians of the Galaxy. And I believe, Joe, he was played by Seth Green from Family Guy fame.
I think too. I think it's just weird. Do we really need a Howard the Duck film at this moment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? That's just one of those questions you're like, because you're thinking about, do we really need a solo film right now? I'm just like, do we really need a Howard the Duck film? Because it's really, what is he going to go do? Is he going to go like steal Thanos' underwear or something? I mean, it's so strange. But in a weird way, it could work if it's done with it's done with the comedic flair of Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok. I think it would be a very great. Mind you, the '86 version, you'll see more of Leah Thompson than you probably are ready to see if you've ever watched it. Just leave that right there. We'll just park that. But that's a really good, interesting news segment.
Park it.
That's it. All right. Moving along. A lot of Marvel news this week. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So Ant-Man and the Wasp will plant seeds for a third film in the Ant-Man franchise, according to director Peyton Reed. Now, Reed opened up about how he has planned for the future in both his first outing in 2015's Ant-Man and the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp film that would just debut this past weekend. He's saying that there's definitely a foundation being laid. Now, I think that this was the case at the first movie, particularly when Adam McKay and Paul Rudd were reworking the script on the first movie. Now, Reed said, in the movie, we added Quantum Realm and Janet and stuff like that, knowing that if we were able to make a sequel, that could be really good fertile ground, end quote. Now, Ant-Man and the Wasp followed with similar approach as Ant-Man, and he went on to say, therefore, end quote, there are definitely things in this movie that if we're fortunate enough to make another, which they probably will given the success, there's a lot to play with. We spend more time in the quantum realm in this movie, obviously, than the first movie, but it feels like we're just dipping our toes into it, Reed said. In other words, moviegoers should keep their eyes and ears open when watching the latest Marvel Studios film, as the future of the franchise might be unfolding before their eyes. Now, before we go on to discuss anything about the Quantum Realm, we're going to save that spoiler alert for the actual movie itself when we go and review it in just a few moments, okay? So I do have a lot I want to say about Quantum Realm. My mind is bubbling with ideas and possibilities. So,
yes, and we'll have to save that for the time when we can get into all of the juicy details because there's so much that's setting up for future Marvel films.
I know. I want to give a huge shout out right quick to my buddy all the way from New Zealand.
Ooh.
Tuning in live right now. He's a newlywed, Philip Ealing. Philip, dude.
Wow.
God bless you. I hope you're having a great day. I am so happy for you and your beautiful wife. Congratulations.
That is awesome.
All right, moving on.
Okay. Moving on, baby. So after 7 seasons and almost 100 episodes, AMC canceled Kevin Smith's Comic Book Men last week, but that doesn't mean fans should count the show out. I know that sucks. Smith is actively looking for a new home for the pop culture-centric series. In a post on Twitter, Smith revealed to fans that Comic Book Men is being pitched to other networks in an attempt to bring the show back to life and thank them for their support. Thanks for the kind words about at Comic Book Men AMC. We're pitching it around to other networks now, so I'll let you know if it comes back to life. Now, Joe, we've been seeing this lately
Netflix.
with many. That's where
That's where I'm on. I'm just going to interrupting Cal right now. Netflix.
But wouldn't it be the perfect show to just binge? Because this is the kind of show because I like this show. I've not seen every episode, but I've seen the majority.
Can I be honest with you?
Man.
Can I be honest with you? When it's on Hulu and the season will drop, I will binge the entire season on a weekend.
It's perfect.
I'm not lying to you. It's the same thing for the Toys That Made Us. When they release new seasons, I binge watch the entire thing the whole weekend because usually I'm doing something at the desk. I'm designing something in Photoshop or I'm doing some kind of graphic design work. And so I have it over on my screen and I'm listening and I'm watching while I'm doing work. And it's a perfect combination for me. And so these kind of shows like Comic Book Men, I mean, Kevin Smith and the gang over at the Secret Stash have just done an amazing job in embodying the true mantra of the comic book geek and the culture that we live in today. They are our age, late 30s, mid 40s kind of individuals. And I mean, we all grew up pretty much on the same thing. And they know that. They get that. They know what it's like to grow up on Mask and Transformers and the 1966 Batman series. They know that. So I think that's where their strength is. And going forward, I do believe it would be really awesome if someone like Netflix, maybe even YouTube TV or Freeform, something like that could pick them up. Freeform has done an amazing job lately. I don't know if you have tuned into their programming, but Cloak and Dagger's stellar. I'm just going to say that.
I watched the first 2 episodes of Cloak and Dagger. Very good, man. I want to keep watching
Isn't
that
it
because
done well?
It's got that. It's got the teen CW stuff, of course, but it's not as hit on as I thought it would be on a network like Freeform.
It's not as campy.
Good show.
It's not as campy as like what was that one? Not the New Mutants, but it was the one that came out on Amazon. Shoot, I can't remember the name of it now. You know which one I'm talking about with the kids? Yeah. Shoot. Anyway, moving forward.
I know.
I'm not going to sit here and dwell on it. Well,
I know
let's
exactly
talk Indiana Jones, shall we? Let's drop some Indy up in. All right. But before I do that, make sure that you tweet at Comic Book Men AMC and let them know that you're interested in the show. Send them a tweet because every tweet does count. Disney and Lucasfilm's Indiana Jones #5. Reteaming franchise director Mr. Steven Spielberg himself and star Harrison Ford will miss its planned July the 10th, 2010 release date. Now, the untitled 5th installment in the franchise was slated for April 2019, filmings to start in the United Kingdom, but sources are saying that shooting will no longer start next spring and will be delayed by months, if not a year. Wow, that's crazy. Is it raining over there on your side of the? It sounds like it's hailing.
It hail?
I don't know. It's like boom, 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 boom.
I don't hear anything.
It sounds like you've got many. What is that? Oompa Loompas working around in your house, repairing your chocolate.
Man.
It sounds
I don't hear
great.
anything.
It sounds great. I mean, I'm expecting chocolate to come out of. What is Joe doing right? I have no idea. Back to Indiana Jones. You're welcome for that moment of randomness. All right. So one cause of the pushback is the lack of a finalized script. Now, as the core creative team have not yet signed off on. Oh, here we go. Oh, Lord, they're not signed off on the script. And Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull scribe David Coep, who reportedly exited the project, Disney declined to comment on the delay and has not officially pulled Indiana Jones from its release calendar or stake out a new date yet. So Disney has not signed off on that yet. Well, do you think there'll be an Indy 5, Mr. Burke?
The only reason I think there will be just because this thing has been so long in production, and I I don't know if they have the script right, but here's my thing about the delay. There is a possibility that they are delaying this so they can work on. There are certain scenes in Ant-Man and the Wasp, no spoilers, but they do this thing where they take characters that we know and they de-age them.
Oh.
What if Indy is sitting there telling a story, because he's an old man now, about something that happened in the past, and they're pushing it back a year so they can de-age Harrison Ford for the majority of the film.
That's pretty lit, man. Especially if you're using the ILM technology that Marvel is using, especially on what we saw in Ant-Man. Did you see Lawrence Fishburne?
Oh my God, dude!
Dude, I know we're talking about the movie right now, but we're going to get into it. Trust me. But you have seen this in Civil War when Robert Downey Jr. is talking about his life. And is it Civil War? I think it's Civil War, right?
Yes, Civil War.
Yeah, and he's seeing his younger self as a teenager, but it's actually RDJ playing himself as a teen.
That looks fantastic.
Unreal de-aging technology. I don't know what they're doing, but it's seamless, flawless, even. Yes. But
and there are rumors that Disney is moving full into this technology, and these kind of came out right when they announced that the script for Indy 5.
I'm down for that.
It's being real. How cool would it be, though? Because everybody's been saying you have to recast Indiana Jones, but do you really have to? Are they going to continue with this franchise, or are they going to give us one more where you de-age Harrison Ford, get him to tell us a story of what happened a long time ago? I'm all for that, man.
You know what, too? And since we're talking about the Harrison Ford and de-aging process, I would love if they made a Blade Runner, if Ridley Scott would do a in-between Blade Runner where he's de-aged. But why did he go to the Outlands? Why was he cast away? Why did he flee? What happened to Rachel? I know we're talking about a different movie on a different topic, but the de-aging process is becoming a really big thing these days. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, dude, that's absolutely. And I like your Blade Runner call too, because what was the whole blackout thing?
See,
that concept is something that could be really explored.
Yeah, Ridley Scott, you know what? He actually was very smart. He dropped so much stuff into those films. And I think Steven Spielberg is kind of doing the same thing with what he's doing with the Indy franchise.
Yes.
So, all right, dude, we got one more news segment left, man.
All right, let's move on to DC Entertainment has issued a statement providing fans with their best idea yet of what the shape, what the shape of the DC Universe app will take when it launches later this year. The app will be home to movies, TV, and comics, all of which will draw on DC's decade-long well of intellectual property. Animated and live-action series and movies will populate this app, spanning from the Fleischer's Superman cartoons to Tim Burton's Batman movies, the DC Universe animated features, and more. The app will also have spaces for breaking news, fan interaction, and ever-growing DC encyclopedia. What? Nice. As well as opportunities to earn rewards, participate in contests, and buy exclusive merch. Fans can sign up now for an opportunity for beta access, which will open in August of 2018. Beta access will give members a chance to test the new digital experience and provide valuable feedback. I want in on this early version of the service before it goes live later this fall. And Joe, there was also a rumor one of the actors accidentally came out and was like, Titans, blah, 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 around fall of 2018. Everybody's like, whoa, so the new Titans TV show might drop around fall of 2018.
Have you seen the release images for Titans with the poster shot?
The Robin poster?
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm telling you, man, it looks good, right?
So the behind the set photos came out, and I'm like, no. But that poster came out, and I'm like, dude, this is like freaking. I have this action figure. It's awesome, man. I'm really digging the look. Yeah, this is.
Do yourself a favor, get on Google after the show and Google Teen Titans Robin poster.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's what I've always wanted Robin to look like in the movies. So this is a TV show.
And he looks awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
He does, man.
Well, we got a hit it of the week. So I think as we're wrapping up the news segment, so don't go nowhere. I got to hit it for you.
And now it's time for PopX's of the week.
All right, the hit it of the week is I was actually over at my amazing comic book store next to my house, Coliseum of Comics. Austin, I think you've visited that place.
Have, sure.
Yes, you have. So this week was a really interesting week. It's one of the most significant comic book day. Every Wednesday, comic book shops around the nation or around the world, that's when the new comic books come out. So they call it New Comic Book Day. And this July the 4th, of course, our store was open. And so in that, we actually had some amazing releases, probably the most important comic book releases all on the same day that they've had probably in over 20 years.
Wow.
So I want to actually show you some of the haul that I have this week. And if you're at your local comic book shop, I highly recommend you get these. I've read about half of these already, okay? So DC Comics, there was a period where Marvel wasn't really releasing a lot of their own, like, what do you say, like their own versions of... Marvel wasn't releasing Spider-Man. They weren't releasing the Hulk. And they were just making these, it's when we get into the Cho Hulk and all that crazy stuff. So DC got the idea, well, let's create our own versions. So they did. This is Spider-Man from DC called Sideways.
Oh my
So this
God.
is Sideways #1. And let me tell you, instead of spinning webs, he's spinning like plasma portals. It's crazy cool.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, look at the cover. Isn't that awesome?
Wow.
Sideways. So this is DC's version of Spider-Man. All right, so, and of course we have the Incredible Hulk, the Immortal Hulk #2. Now this is continue on with the horror version of telling the Incredible Hulk from a dark, nighttime, horror type setting. And it's absolutely brilliant. The first book in this, Immortal Hulk, is insane. It starts off and you're on the edge of your seat when you read it. Also, guess who's back in action this week? Thor. Odin's son has returned. The female Thor is kind of out of the picture now, and so Odin's son has returned. This is the original Thor, and he's back. This is issue #1. Here's another interesting one that came out this week. This was probably one of the most biggest sellers of the week. Get ready for it, ladies and gentlemen. Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Oh my God.
Look at that. Dude, is that not the most awesome? Look at, he's got fire cannons. I mean, that's
awesome.
It's insane. And last but not least, he's back. That Marvel is doing the right thing. They brought back Bruce Banner. They brought back the original Thor. They brought back Tony Stark. They brought back so many lead characters, including the guy who leads the franchise. Look at this Alex Ross artwork. Is that not beautiful? Look at that D-Day going on in the background.
Wow.
That is a beautiful comic. And so Steve Rogers returns in the epic tales of Captain America, and they're just, you know what, we're gonna do it and do it right. We're rebooting the entire franchise. And Alex Ross, my God,
gorgeous.
Is that not a beautiful artwork? I love Alex Ross artwork. It's amazing. So definitely check that out at your local comic book shop. And if you're in Claremont, be sure to visit our amazing comic book shop, Coliseum of Comics, and say hi to Daniel for us. Daniel is awesome. He handles all the subscriptions over there. Daniel, keep on rocking the shout-outs for you, my friend. All right, so is that it? I think we're ready for some Ant-Man, aren't we?
I think so. It's Ant-Man.
I'm excited. Can you tell I'm excited? I'm a little excited. All right, so we're going to roll the spoiler alert. So, Austin, you want to give them the spoiler alert spiel? Yeah, I'm going to let you do it.
You guys, listen. We're going to be dropping literally everything there is possibly to drop about this film. So if you want to turn away now, turn away. But if you just want to know and you don't want to go watch the movie, I encourage you not to do that, because Ant-Man and the Wasp is worth watching in the theater. You're about to hear everything.
All right. Spoiler alert warning is going on now. Don't go nowhere.
Danger. You are about to enter a PopX spoiler alert. Beyond this point, there is no return. You have been warned.
All right, Austin, they've been warned. Beyond this point, there is no return. So let's talk about, we were talking about it in the news. Let's just go ahead and continue that conversation right now. The quantum realm. Now, we find out in the movie that the quantum realm has many properties if your body is exposed to it over a long period of time or a short period of time. And so they have this thing called interdimensional quantum realm. What was it called? Not dithering, but entanglement, where fractions of your soul and your essence, and if someone's in the quantum realm as well, you become entangled within the quantum realm. So your minds and your body and your thoughts and your soul sync up. It's really strange, but it's how they were able to find the mother, Miss Van Dyne, and it was pretty awesome how they did it. And I want to get to Austin here in a minute, but I want to give you the spiel. They find out that there's healing properties, infinite healing properties within the quantum realm. And we find that is it Janet Van Dyne? Is that her name? When she comes back after 30 years, now they don't say this in the movie, but I'm going to tell you this from the comics. Janet Van Dyne is called Evolutionary, and she is a mutant. Okay?
Yeah.
So she is a full-blown mutant, and she has healing powers, and she heals the villain of the movie, who happens to be a villain with phasing abilities, and she can't control it. So, Austin, a little bit of conversation about the quantum realm. What were your thoughts on we saw a little bit of it in Ant-Man Part 1, but now that we are understanding the repercussions of exposure of the quantum realm, what are your thoughts going forward, and how will this change the MCU? That's my question for you.
Oh, Joe.
That's a big question, right?
Oh, Joe, there are a lot of different ways that I do believe that this is going to impact the future of the Marvel movies. And I think one big... I want to bring this up real quick. So apparently in the first Ant-Man, when Scott is in the quantum realm, if you freeze it, and this is one frame, so I'm talking people getting on the Blu-ray, going through every single frame. If you freeze it, it gives you hints and like subtle cues of what's going to happen in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So apparently in the first Ant-Man, there are frames of Janet Van Dyne in the quantum realm.
Wait,
yes, sir.
Whoa.
Yes. Freeze frames. One frame in the movie. I believe actually 2 or 3.
Why did not was it Michelle Pfeiffer? Or was it just the Wasp?
I think it was just somebody in just the Wasp in the costume. Yes.
Why am I only hearing about this now?
I'm telling you, man. So in this movie, apparently there are freeze frames, and I'm going to have to go back and watch real carefully, of future MCU movies in the quantum realm.
Whoa.
And yeah. And all of the rumors online are saying there are screenshots. Like, I've not seen one, but they're saying people have seen Thanos' eyes in the quantum realm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What? So if we're talking about the impact,
dude, you just blew my lid just then.
Dude, I'm telling you, if we're talking about the impact of the quantum realm, I don't think nobody could have anticipated that Ant-Man and the Wasp would have such an impact on the future of the MCU, because what they do at the end of this movie, however you feel about the film, you cannot deny that this thing is going to change the game when it comes to what they're doing in Avengers 4. And
Absolutely.
we have seen behind-the-scenes pictures of Scott Lang walking around, well, I guess we're talking spoilers, walking around with Iron Man and Captain America, so we know he has an impact. We don't know what the device is on their hand. We're talking time travel, and you can get all of these different elements of time travel and healing factors from the quantum realm. And we also know that Captain Marvel, a lot of her behind-the-scenes concepts, everything, spawns from quantum. It's all
cosmic quantum being.
Quantum, and we know that she's aware of the different dimensions. So is she the one that goes and saves Ant-Man from the quantum realm when she comes back to Earth? What is going to happen? And we don't even know. I know I'm going all the way.
No, dude. This is you're blowing my lid right now. This is awesome.
And I hate to go so far, but how is Scott going to get out of the quantum realm? Well, we can't deny that Captain Marvel may be the only way to get out, unless Lawrence Fishburne's character is still there and he can possibly get them out. But I think that's the tie-in between Ant-Man, Captain Marvel, and Avengers 4. She gets them out, and then they find ways from the quantum realm to either change time or use the healing factor or something within that to change the game.
You notice in those screen captures, if you it's not too hard to find these. You can go on superherohype.com or comicbook.com, and you can see these screen captures coming from the set of Avengers 4, which is supposed to be titled End Game. That's what we're hearing. But there's scenes, but they're in their original Avengers #1 costume. And I don't know if anybody have noticed that. They're not in their new stuff. This is like Steve Rogers from back in 2012, you know?
And 2 different Tony Starks. One Tony Stark with gray hair, one Tony Stark with black.
Yeah. It's interesting. So Quantum Realm. You really just hit the nail on the head. I think Quantum Realm, Ant-Man, as little as you think it is, Ant-Man is a pivotal film because it introduces concepts into the MCU that is definitely going to be a dynamic force to be reckoned with, like Captain Marvel, for example. This film is a direct lead-up to Captain Marvel in every single way, with the quantum realm and then Thanos and all of that. It's going to be a direct tie-in, and I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel is the only MCU film that we have right now until Avengers 4 drops next summer. So you know that they're going to be planning something pretty significant, either in the film itself, in the post-credits, or whatever they're going to do. Captain Marvel is going to be a pivotal film. I think that Captain Marvel is probably, I'm just going to say it, she's going to be like the Wonder Woman of the Marvel MCU. I think it's going to be like Black Panther. It's going to do substantially well at the box office because a lot of the female heroes and cosplayers are going to rally behind Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel. So it's a win-win. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of cosmic stuff that's going to be dropped at that time. So I think a lot of people are just going to be blown away by the film itself. So, talking about the quantum realm, let's talk about Lawrence Fishburne's character. So he is an ex-SHIELD agent, and he used to work with Hank Pym. So there's a little bit of a connection there. And one of the things, Austin, I wanted to get your take on this. One of the things, the big villain of the film, and you've probably seen the white character with the red lens eyes, is called Ghost. Ghost is a byproduct of a lab experiment gone horribly wrong when her father tried to experiment with the quantum realm tunnels, and it blew up, and it killed both of Ghost's father and mother. And she went back into the room where her father was experimenting, and the radiation fell on her, and she began to do what was called quantum phasing, where her body was going in and out of reality, and she could move through inanimate objects and solid matter and all of that stuff. She could just walk right through it. And in that, though, she had a lot of pain. Now, at the end of the film, we see that there is kind of a I don't want to say the term revolution, but there is kind of like a resolve in her character, and she becomes good, and Lawrence Fishburne is considered to be probably more of a hero type. How do you think do you think that's going to tie into part 3? You think Lawrence Fishburne's character and his knowledge is going to tie in?
I would like to, because the reveal came in the movie when he was kind of like, oh, he's the villain now, ha. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming, but I like his character. I liked the first conversation they had, so I didn't want him to be the villain.
Right.
But yeah, if you look at Hank Pym in the comics, Hank Pym's really not a good guy.
No.
I mean, he's a horrible person. They've made him a little bit more relatable in the movies, but you look at some of the things that he's done, and it's like, I mean, they even said it. Lawrence Fishburne's character said it. I mean, he fired Ghost's father just for no reason. I mean, he was doing bad things with his company. So then Lawrence Fishburne comes in.
He fired his character, Foster.
And he fired Foster.
And he didn't even give him credit for the work he did.
Yeah, I mean, Hank Pym's kind of a scum. And I like how they portrayed that in the film. So I would like to see Lawrence Fishburne return and play more of a hero role, like you said, in the next Ant-Man. And honestly, put on the suit. I want to see him become his superhero that he is in the comic books, because the Goliath man, because I think he could get to the point. Dude, imagine 2 giant mans running around New York City fighting somebody. How awesome would that be in a third Ant-Man movie? And I loved his relationship with Ghost. I thought that was just very fatherly, especially at the end when he kind of, I'm not leaving
you. Yeah.
Dude, I was like, wow, that is awesome. So I want to see his character return.
Well, anytime you cast Lawrence Fishburne in a film, and you know you're going to get some quality acting, because that guy, I mean, come on. Matrix, let me just... Awesome. I mean, he's amazing character, amazing. He's even done stuff in DC Comics. He was a Daily Planet. He worked
Perry White.
Perry White.
Yeah.
And so, he's just an amazing guy. Now, I think the dynamic, though, between Hank Pym and Scott Lang is pretty awesome. And I'm glad that there is that dynamic. You've got 2 Ant-Mans in the same film. And in reality, in the comic books, they, rarely cross paths, even though they're both considered the same Ant-Man. I think that's a really interesting dynamic.
And Hank Pym even puts on a version of the Ant-Man suit at the end when he goes into the quantum realm, and
which was nice.
Seeing that.
It was nice.
That's cool.
I remember the first time I saw that, because I've seen it twice this weekend.
Oh, very
and
cool.
when he put it on and went into the tunnel, I'm like, nice. That's
Throwback.
a cool looking suit, man.
Yeah.
So it was really neat. If you actually have seen, if you've in the chat room, if you're hanging out with us, you've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp this weekend. Comment over here to the right and let us know what your favorite parts and favorite moments were, and we'll actually read it out here live on the podcast while we're recording. But there are so many elements of the film that I just thought worked, and I'm so glad that ex-con. Did you hear that?
Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome.
The banter between the three of them. That we're talking about the Misfits from the original one. What is the Spanish guy who's so funny? I can't remember his name.
Luis Michael Pena's character.
Michael Pena. Oh my God, he literally is such a nice breath of fresh air in the film, because his comic relief really just kind of breaks the ice in so many aspects. And you get the other two guys in there, it's just like awesome. It's great. Yeah. I thought that was a really great dynamic. And actually, we're going to be talking, we have a Easter egg. Ex-Con is actually in the comic books. So we're going to be talking. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that here in just a second. Yeah, Austin, was there anything in the film that kind of just stood out to you as like, wow, I didn't see that coming?
Well, there were a few things. I liked some of the twists and turns along the way, especially with, I'm not saying, I don't really know how to feel about Ghost, because there are elements of her character.
You can be candid here, okay?
That I think we could have explored her a little bit more, honestly. I wanted to know a bit more about her as a villain, because she had a lot of potential. I really liked the actress. She was very good in the role.
Yes, she was.
But she just felt a bit one-dimensional until the end, when you get more of a good side of her. But even then, it's like, after all of the bad things that you just did, probably killing a lot of people when you made the building go really big, she just gets away. It's like, we don't really see what happens to her, but she just kind of runs away. And I'm like, I wanted more from her character.
Yeah.
And then Walton Goggins' character, the other villain, man, I thought he was so unnecessary. I love the actor. And I thought there were some great comedy bits.
What was with the country accent? What was with the southern down home?
Because Walton Goggins, if you've seen him on TV, man, he is, I mean, he's an award-nominated actor, so I don't know what he was doing, but that I felt like if you would have removed that villain and just kept it Ghost, Ant-Man, the ex-cons, and the FBI, then I think that would have worked out a little bit better, because maybe give us a car chase at the end with the FBI instead of the character of Walton Goggins.
They could have even used Foster as a little bit of an antagonist instead of his character. You know, I'm just saying.
And
so
I agree with you. So those were kind of unnecessary.
I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of Ghost fleshed out. I mean, it's in typical, and I say this with respect because I'm a Marvel fanboy myself. Typical Marvel fashion. I mean, you have a villain that is very fierce and dynamic in her own right, but it's just not as fleshed out as much. And I think the really only true villain that we've gotten in the past couple of years has definitely been Thanos. Even in Spider-Man: Homecoming and Michael Keaton's character, you kind of understand and see what he does, but I really wish we would have kind of honed in on him a little bit more, and instead of just some guy flying around trying to get a bunch of steal a bunch of stuff from Stark Industries. So it's typical Marvel fashion. You have a very, a weak villain, perhaps.
Weak villains.
Yeah. Sort of. So I don't understand that whole dynamic. I don't know. It would be interesting. I mean, I think honestly, the villain for me in the whole movie would probably be Hank Pym himself, if you think about it, because he's his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
He's riding around trying to chase dreams and trying to get these devices, and he's making everybody just stressed out at the same time. And I think that's underlying dynamic of a villain. I don't know.
I agree with you.
Does that make sense?
No, I love that sentiment, because like I said, Hank Pym is really, I mean, he's a villain in his own right.
He's kind of a turd. Actually.
He's a little bit of a turd. So but here's the thing about the villain problem with Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I think the first Ant-Man has a villain problem as well. But you don't really need a great villain for these movies to work. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I would have liked to have seen Ghost fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But and usually on these Marvel movies like Guardians 2, I had some issues with the humor. I thought a little bit of it was forced. I had no problems with the humor in this movie. I thought it all worked so well.
I did too. Agreed.
So well. I mean, I was cracking up the bit where he small runs into the school. Oh my God.
Oh, that was hilarious. And when he got into the van as a little kid in a hoodie, I was like, oh my God, they did not put that in the film. It's like, you hear that, the van at the schoolyard trying to pick up. Oh my God, they just like blew that up. Well, we're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp. Let's hear from our buddy, Mr. Mike Ippolito. Does he want to come on and does Mike want to come on and share a little bit about Ant-Man and the Wasp? I don't know if he does or doesn't. If he shows up, he shows up.
I think he wants to.
He does show up. Mikey, make sure you unmute yourself there, Mike. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, this movie was great. You guys covered just about all of it. I love. I know the ghost character said he's kind of a little weak, but the phasing effects that they did was pretty amazing. I enjoyed that very much, and had a little bit more comedy than to me. I think I had a little more comedy than the first one.
Yeah, I agree.
I definitely enjoyed it. And to see, for them to recover Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm, that was pretty amazing.
Hi! What's going on over there, everybody?
So the old joke of you're in the other room, Mike is actually in the other room.
Yes, Joe is actually on the opposite side of this wall where I'm sitting.
That's incredible. Joe, how did you do that, man? Joe literally just phased. He phased into another.
I literally just phased through the wall, and I went into the quantum realm, and there was Mike.
Oh,
how the heck did that happen?
That was spectacular. I thought that was.
Oh my God.
I knew this going into the show, and I was still thrown off just now. So
you're welcome.
You nailed it.
You're like, why is Joe leaving the mic? Yeah, okay. Anyway, I digress. But Mike, was there a part of the film that you feel could have kind of been maybe fleshed out a little bit more, or maybe touched on a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the ghost. They could have covered a little more. It felt like it was kind of rushed.
That's a good word. Behind it, that's a really good word for it.
Yeah, that's a great word.
Yeah, it seems like you're more focused on trying to get Janet out of the quantum realm than the ghost, because it was like it felt like it was just like squashed in the middle, and they rushed through, telling the story.
Yeah.
So it could have been, a little bit better. But I do like the end where he was able to rescue her out of the quantum realm, and I think Michelle Pfeiffer played an amazing Janet Van Dyne for what we did see her. And just actually, I was looking at something before I had come on, and she's listed as Janet Van Dyne in the untitled Avengers film for 2019. So I just happened to pick that up. So I'm not sure what that means.
Wow.
Definitely be something in the works.
So she's in Avengers Endgame, possibly.
Well, it's listed. Well, if that's what they're considering, it just says an untitled Avengers film. Now, that could be anything. So,
that's a really good call, Mike.
Overall, I enjoyed the movie all the way to the end. I would definitely go see it again.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And by the way, Michelle Pfeiffer looks stunning. I mean, she has not aged a bit. I mean, I could just imagine her in the Catwoman suit from 1992. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you, man.
Well, Mike, I want you to come back, Mike, in a few minutes when we start talking about Won't You Be My Neighbor, because I definitely want to share that. But so me and Austin are going to roll through some Easter eggs right quick. Are you ready to do a little Easter egg love here, man?
Let's do it. Hey, I have two things I wanted to point out that I completely forgot about.
Oh, absolutely.
About Ant-Man and the Wasp. So one is I had an issue at the end when Janet cured Ghost, and we never got an explanation for those powers. Now, we know that from the comics. We know she can do that, but we don't know as an audience member who've never read a comic book. So I had an issue with that. That was one of my flaws. But something that I loved was when Paul Rudd was playing Michelle Pfeiffer. When he was her, I thought that was some of the best, funniest, just best acting I've seen all year. It was so funny, and he nailed the tone. So those were two things that I wanted to point out that I was just thinking about.
And especially when he snapped out of it, he was still holding Hank Pym's hand. That was pretty awesome.
Brilliant gag.
Hey, Jelly Bean.
Brilliant gag.
All right. Awesome. All right, so our first Easter egg for Ant-Man. Now, there was a bunch of these, and so trying to weed through them and get the best of the best I did my best, but there was at least a list of like 68, and of course Stan the Man Lee brings a cameo as well. He has a cameo in this MCU movie.
A good one too.
A really good one. But the first one is called House Arrest. Now we join Scott this time around while he's under house arrest, and it's a consequence. He's suffering from his involvement with Captain America during Civil War when Scott teamed up with Cap to fight against the signing of the Sokovia Accords, which landed him right back into the heart of the black site prison called the Raft again. So rather than deal with his life on the run, Scott elected to take a plea deal and go back to his family, which included a 2-year house arrest clause. And so that would explain, it's a direct tie-in to Civil War, the Sokovia Accords by, to General Ross at the time. And so we're going back to the defunct agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel S.H.I.E.L.D., and all that stuff. So kind of a cool little throwback.
Yeah, and explains so well, too.
Very
so
well.
moving on, ex-con security. We've already mentioned it. Scott may be confined under house arrest post-Civil War, but he's been hard at work with a brand new day job. He and the crew, Luis, Dave, and Kurt, have started up a brand new security consulting business called, apparently, ex-con security. I could watch a TV show on this. This is actually a reference to some recent Ant-Man comics where Scott does just that in Miami, Florida. In the comics, the version of ex-con is called Ant-Man Security Solutions, and it's populated not by other ex-cons, but with a small group of D-list costume villains, Grizzly and Machine Smith making up the core of the group, but the basic principles are still the same. What a great ex-con security.
Ex-con security.
Oh my God. Just great, man. I love it.
That was actually sounds like a really cool company. You know, you wouldn't even think that there's it's like a convict. You wouldn't even think that. All right. So the next one is the Orb. Now, during Scott's heist playtime with his daughter Cassidy, he has her pull out a special contact lens to disable one of the imaginary security systems. Now, the contact in this case is just a paper plate painted like a giant eyeball that takes up Cassie's entire face for a moment. Now, of course, this is about 80% sight gag, but the remaining 20% is actually pretty clever nod to Marvel's weirdest and most persistent villains, a man called the Orb. Now, Orb's most notable feature is his head, which, as you might guess it, is a giant spherical eyeball.
Incredible.
So that was a little nod to one of the most weirdest characters in the Marvel universe.
One of the weirdest. Absolutely. Moving on, another weird character, Baba Yaga. This is a... Sorry, I had to. That was the John Wick. Baba Yaga. This one isn't so much a comics reference as a wink to the actual folklore. When discussing Ghost for the first time, Kurt wistfully explains that she sounds just like Baba Yaga, a gag which I also thought was very funny. A witch who could magically show up and eat children. He's not totally wrong, nor is he just making this up. The Baba Yaga is a myth/cautionary tale told in Slavic countries about a terrifying old woman, or sometimes a trio of old women, who served, depending on the story, as a benevolent helper or a malicious villain. In the way that this reference fits so daggone well. And like I said, it was also used in John Wick. That's what they call him. So I was just sitting there cracking
Baba Yaga.
up.
That's right.
Baba Yaga.
John Wick. That's a good pull,
John
Mr.
Wick.
Burke. I'm proud of you. Next up, we got the Goliath Project. Now, Bill Foster, who is Lawrence Fishburne's character, talks briefly about he and Hanks worked together back in the good old days at S.H.I.E.L.D. on a project called Goliath, which it turns out to be more than just a catchy name. Now, Bill's comic book counterpart has a superhero alter ego on his own, actually. The size-manipulating Goliath, who had basically the same story on screen and off. Apparently, no matter what universe he's in, Bill's destined to be Hank's ex-assistant. Maybe eventually we'll get to see Lawrence Fishburne suit up, but until then, a formerly Pym particle-empowered Bill in the best that we've got. So there is Goliath in all of his glory from the glory days. Look at that.
Told you, man. Nice. I want to see that. Suit him up, baby.
Yeah, suit him up. Let's do it.
Suit him up. Moving on from one big person to another, Giant Man. While Scott's antics are being broadcast on TV, a newscaster refers to him as Giant Man, likely because he's, well, a giant man. But significantly, this tiny moment represents the first time the name Giant Man has actually been used in canon in the MCU. As soon as that happened, Joe, I'm like, I've been waiting on it.
There it is. There it is. Giant Man. Boom. That was a great little tie-in. Now the next one is up called the Tardigrades. Now what the heck are you saying, Joe? Well, when Hank Pym goes into the quantum realm, these like amoebic, there's a picture of them. They look like amoebic parasites. I don't know what you would call it, but these are quantum-sized microorganisms or something, but they're actually real. And during his trip into the quantum realm, Hank Pym comes across a few of these massive alien-like creatures at the subatomic level. Now, they're called tardigrades, or water bears, and they're actually pretty important to the scientific community. They're real, guys. They're known for their ability to withstand extreme environment and live in excess of over 100 years. They are...
Well, that's terrifying.
So he saw them that's mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little freaked out. Can't sleep tonight. Yeah. Next up is evolutionary. Jan describes the effects of her time in the quantum realm as sort of an evolution rather than adaptation. In over the comics, Jan is actually a mutant, which gives that line a whole new flavor. While mutants aren't exactly canon in the mainline MCU, this does present a backdoor into introducing them in earnest sometime down the line. Maybe quantum energy will have something to do with the emergence of the next step in human evolution. Oh, my God.
Oh, snap. Could they be setting up mutants here?
Oh, my God, Joe. Come on, man.
I know. And there's so much fun nerdiness going on right now. Last but not least, we need to talk about the snap. All right, we're talking about, if you stay, there's 2 end scene credits. And the first one is definitely, spoiler alerts rolling here. Scott is recruited. There's now a new, smaller form of the quantum realm chamber, tunnel, if you will. And so his job is to go in and get some quantum particles, healing particles, and bring them back for Ghost's healing so she can continue to be healed. In this, on intercom, they're telling him when he can come back, and they give a countdown from 1 to 5. And on 3, the voice goes silent. And we come back to reality, and we see that Hank and both of the Van Dynes, the daughter and the mother, are all disintegrated because of the thing. Now, I actually called this. I called this months ago. We were saying it was going to be Scott's daughter. But we was like, what if he comes back from the quantum realm and his daughter, well, it was actually pretty darn close to our predictions. He's stuck in the quantum realm, and it's actually the ones that know how to get him back are gone.
Yeah, here's what I think is crazy. What if Scott Lang was actually supposed to be part of the snap, but the quantum realm allowed him to survive even though he was part of the half that would have disappeared? What if the quantum realm is a chamber of protection from something like the snap? I found that so interesting because it's like, okay, if he wasn't in the quantum
realm, that's a really
realm,
good call, man.
Maybe he would have disappeared if he wasn't in the quantum realm. Maybe it saved his life. I find that very interesting. It's something that you can deep dive in all day long, but that was a great post-credit scene. One of the best I've ever seen. And the way it was filmed, it actually looked like a Russo brothers film. That whole scene looked like a Russo brothers film.
Yeah,
so I'm sure they came in.
I bet the Russos were part of that.
I guarantee
part of that post-production stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we go into Won't You Be My Neighbor, let's go ahead and rate Ant-Man and the Wasp if we can. So I came out of the movie theater with a number in my mind already, and I'm going to stick with it. Out of a 10, we're going to go with 10. Well, we'll go with 10. I'm going to say an 8.8. I thought that was a very generous. I was thinking about 8.6, 8.7, but I really enjoyed the movie. And despite the flaws in the villain that should have been fleshed out, it was easily overlooked because of the acting and just the sheer body of talent in this film. And I thought that kind of overshadowed the fact that there was a weak villain in the movie itself. So you get the heavy hitters: Lawrence Fishburne, Michelle Pfeiffer, Paul Rudd. On their own scenes were enough to be entertaining. So, and I thought because of that, I didn't give it a full 9, but an 8.8 was my generous offer. And I want to hear Mike's. Go ahead, Austin, with yours, and then Mike will come on and share his as well.
I sound like a horrible person here. I'm going to give this a 7.4. I know it seems low, but like I've I've not given really that many 8s and 9s this year, so it's actually a good score for me. It's right around where like the first Thor and a little bit above Guardians 2. It's in that range, like around the 10 number of the MCU movies. But that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's in my top 20 of the year. I've watched 80 films. It's a very good, fun, entertaining. Not a lot of depth, but I don't think there needed to be that much depth. And just one of the funniest Marvel movies I've ever seen. There's a lot that worked for this movie. Some stuff didn't work for me, but overall, I can definitely walk out and say, yeah, I'm giving this a positive score. And it's really, I didn't think this movie would be as good as it was. So I'm impressed with it.
Awesome. That's a good score, actually, coming from you, because you're the film student.
Yeah, I'm very.
Mike, do you want to share your score with us? And then while you're on, we're going to go ahead and go right on into Won't You Be My Neighbor. So what's your score for Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yes, I'm gonna go a little higher than you guys. I enjoy, except for like the ghost character where they could have done a little bit better. I'm gonna go with a 9 on this.
Okay.
Just for the special effects, the quantum realm. I enjoyed the story immensely.
Yeah.
And just to kind of really jump back real quick, what Austin said about everything tying into from Ant-Man to Captain Marvel to Avengers. I think Captain Marvel will now be the tipping point going into the next phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As we had Iron Man that started it, this is going to start a whole new thing, and I think Captain Marvel will take us in to the next phase of the next 20 movies or the stories that they have planned.
Yeah.
So you're saying that Captain Marvel will be like Iron Man #1 in ushering in a whole new era for Marvel?
Yeah, I think Captain Marvel will start that off.
I love that.
We'll see the end in the Avengers of what we know as the cinematic universe now, and the changing of the Avengers, and Captain Marvel will now start us going into the next. I know we're going to Phase 4, but starting over, with going from Phase 4 into 5, 6, however far they want to take it.
That's
definitely enjoyed this. Yeah.
That's actually, so we got a 9, a 7.4, and an 8.8. That's coming from Team PopX, so it's definitely certified fresh. Go check it out with your family and your friends, and it's definitely there is a couple of little words, but it's not really nasty, heavy words. It's family friendly, so definitely go check it out. It's a good film. It's a great film, and I think you and your family, especially if you've seen Ant-Man 1 and you loved it and you appreciated it, you're going to just love this one that much more. So before we go off the air, we're going to actually talk about a little bit about Won't You Be My Neighbor. And this movie, I have been really wanting to see it so bad, because a little backstory from me, and we're going to spend about 5 or 10 minutes on this, okay? A little backstory for me. I didn't really get out much as a child. I was, one of those individuals that was bullied. I was a sick kid growing up, so I lived vicariously through the television as a child growing up. And my mom and dad did an amazing job, and they did the best they could despite the obstacles that they had to face. And when I would come home from school, we're talking 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, I was watching Mr. Rogers and Fred Rogers and all of that, and I grew up basically embodying everything that he tried to establish and imprint on kids, and that was just being true to yourself, and they were all designed and created, with a purpose, and that, none of us are exactly alike, and all of that. And so, growing up in that in kind of setting, I remember one of the key moments, and I later found out as an adult, it was called Superheroes Week when it was broadcast. Fred Rogers, there was a lot of kids. Christopher Reeve had just came out with Superman, and kids were trying to jump off of things and hurting themselves, and it was talking about how society and the things that they see are imprinting on kids to make them do things that they shouldn't be doing. And so he spent a whole week called Superheroes Week. And then one of the episodes in particular, he visited the backlot at Universal's California, Universal Studios, and there he was on the set of The Incredible Hulk. Now, if you know anything about Joe Burke or me or anything, I'm a huge Hulk fan. And so seeing this as this was probably 1987, so I was probably 8 years old. Seeing this as an 8-year-old kid, and actually, watching Lou Ferrigno put on the paint, and Mr. McFeely, with his little camera recording it, and actually Bill Bixby coming out from behind the stage describing how it's made to look real, but it's not, and it's okay. And Big Lou is not a scary monster. He's actually a really good guy, and he's lovable and stuff like that. So it was, for me, it kind of broke down that wall of like the Incredible Hulk being this evil force. You know what I'm saying? And Fred Rogers actually done it in such a way that made kids go, all right, I can't. It's okay. I'm not scared by him. He's just a guy, and he loves his job, and he's got this amazing body and physique, and he's able to do things that a normal person can't. And I think seeing that episode and stuff like that really imprinted on me as a child. And when I heard about this film, I was truly blown away because I knew. Now I don't want to get too religious on you guys, but you know, Fred Rogers was a man of faith, and so was Billy Graham. And I think these two icons, you know, we've lost a part of our generation when Fred Rogers and Billy Graham passed away. These two guys lived their lives in such a way that was so their level of integrity and just their moral character was so true, even right up to the very end. And with Fred Rogers, he lived it every day of his life. He wasn't this fake person behind the scenes. When he was with his family, he was the same exact way. And he said, there's going to be no fighting in our home. We're going to love. And if we can't love, then we have a problem, and we needed to talk about it. And I just love that about him. And even today in my own marriage, when we have moments of conflict or disagreement, Alex and I will actually sit down and we'll hold hands, and we'll be in a moment of love. It was so awesome. And just to live those moments and those things from my childhood that I was learned and taught, you can't get that stuff in an elementary classroom. You can't. He was talking about assassinations. He was talking about death. He was talking about 9/11. Why are people hurting other people? It's big top. Why am I not good enough? He was talking about suicide, and I'm telling you, it was, if I can't say enough about the film. It literally wrecked me because there was a scene with this little boy in a wheelchair, and Ealing was his name. I know, something like that. But it was just seeing that, I connected with that obviously, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I was a grown man in the theater crying. I'm not going to lie to you. It was very powerful, and it will touch you, and it will make you feel when you leave the theater. It will make you feel better about yourself, that you need to strive to do better things for others, and not include yourself in so much of your decisions, but include others before yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Austin. I didn't mean to go off on a 5-minute tangent,
No.
but I want to hear your thoughts as well, Austin.
No, don't apologize. This is one of the first times, the first time I've ever went and watched a documentary in a theater before, because I've been hearing such good things about it. I've been hearing it's the best movie of the year, and it's good enough to be. Should we start nominating documentaries for Best Picture? I mean, that's literally how big this documentary has been.
Absolutely.
So I said, you know what? It came to the Kentucky Theater, one of our local art house cinemas. So I went there and I watched it. And it's the first movie I've watched, not just this year, but a couple of years, that made me want to be a better person. And you've talked about the content, and that speaks for itself. That's just something that you guys have to go see, because the film exemplifies with its storytelling and with the way that it's shot and integrated with real footage, how incredible this man was. And then they take these interviews with people that knew Fred Rogers.
Yeah.
And we're so close to him. I mean, his son said it whenever Dad would get mad, he would use the puppet to give out his emotions, his negative emotions, because he couldn't do it. Fred Rogers could not be a negative person, and you could tell at certain points when he was getting frustrated with the way people were feeling about certain things, especially when he started, and I love stuff like this, but they started talking about, the violent cartoons.
Yeah.
And you could tell he was a little agitated by that, because we don't want our children growing up with certain things. But I mean, that's just a testament to how incredible the guy was. I said after walking out, there's rumors, it's like, oh, Mr. Rogers, he fought in the military. He was a sniper, all this stuff. I was telling my friend about the movie, and he said, oh, did it go into how he was part of the Army? I'm like, this is all what this movie did. First of all, it cleared up all the negativity. It showed that the negativity towards Mr. Rogers has always been bull. I mean, it's been complete and utter nonsense, because the people closest to him were in this film, and it lets you know that this man is just an incredible person. And I've never really had to judge a documentary before because I don't really like rate them, and I don't do my, this is the first review I've ever done on a documentary because I just wanted to talk about the subject matter and how much it appealed to me. And I will go on record, it's not necessarily my favorite movie of the year. It's in my top 10. It is the best movie of the year. I think it's the most well-made. It's the most impactful. And that moment at the end, I'm not going to spoil anything, when they ask you to sit and think of someone who has influenced you or who has inspired you or just helped you along the way. One of the single best moments I've ever had in a theater, because everyone, silent, eyes closed, nobody, just everyone. And then after the movie's over, and Joe, you said this too, everyone just sits in their seats and just, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We actually sat through the entire credits.
Yeah.
And just sitting there, we were just kind of like awestruck at what we just watched. I was completely dumbfounded, man.
Yeah.
I'm not lying to you. And so, man, dude, I can't say enough about it. Mike, I want to hear from Mike right quick because I know that he wanted to see this movie as well, and I know that this movie was definitely on his radar. Mike, what was your thoughts on Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Yeah, I've been dying to see this movie. I was lucky that I'm down here in Orlando and it happened to be playing, where we could all go see it together because we all went this afternoon to see it, and there was a lot of scenes that I had a hard time holding back. It's we got a better. I mean, Joe and I grew up basically, around basically the same age, and back then, seeing Mr. Rogers and learning from him. But now at our age, you get a better appreciation of who he was, and what he was trying to do. And it's unfortunate, the world that we live in now, and that we need somebody like Fred Rogers more than ever. Because I have one child in college and one that's 14, and I fear for what's going to happen when they finally get out into the world. The way people are treated, and I think now it's just worse than ever. And it's unfortunate that he's not around because I think if he was, things would be a little different. This world would be different, and just like Joe said with the boy in the wheelchair, the one that kind of got me was right there at the end where I guess they had some kind of tribute ceremony to him and they brought him out grown up in the wheelchair. I mean, he was an older gentleman. For him to jump out of his seat and scale a stage like that, to get to that guy now, but it was that's what kind of got me too. I mean, to see him like that and the affection he had, and the concern for kids and telling you, you're special, and the amount of, suicide that we have now and stuff. And it's just ridiculous what the world has become. And times have changed and times are different. And, we all go and we see these superhero movies and he is the ultimate, unfortunately, he was the ultimate superhero. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that because it was very emotional. If you didn't walk out of that theater, without a tear, then you need to evaluate yourself. But to reevaluate your situation, your life. But it was a very moving film, and like I said, he's the ultimate superhero, and I'm just going to leave it out with this right here.
Yeah, there you go.
He is worthy.
Yes, he is. Look at that. He's holding Mjolnir. And Mike, I think Mike said it best, and Austin, I'm pretty sure you'll agree. We do a podcast called PopX. We talk about superheroes. We talk about science fiction. And very rarely do we meet individuals in reality who embody the characteristics of a true living superhero. You think about Pope John Paul or Mother Teresa. People are just above and beyond the calling of what a normal human being is. Fred Rogers is that. He's a living embodiment of a superhero. He lived his life a certain way. He had a moral standard in which he kept and abided by. And I love the adage of his 1-4-3, I love you. Oh. He lived his life by that. So it's I is one word, for I love you. Love is for and U is 3. So 143. He lived his whole life. Everything evolved around the numbers 143 for him.
Weighed 143 pounds.
Weighed 143 pounds up until his death. He weighed 143 pounds.
It's incredible.
So, well, all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Definitely go and see it. I'm not even going to rate Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I'm just going to tell you, get off your butt and go see it. And make sure, if it's in a theater 30, 40 miles away from your house,
it's worth it.
It's worth a day trip.
Yeah.
Do it. All right? You won't regret it because you'll walk out of the theater feeling a lot better about yourself than you did going in. I'm almost certain for that. So, Austin, I believe that is another episode. We're sorry about we went over 15 minutes, guys, but I kind of wanted to actually. We wanted to talk a little bit about Won't You Be My Neighbor.
It was worth it.
Austin, if you want to go ahead and close us out, my friend, we'll wrap up another one.
All right, guys. I am Austin Burke at the Burkinator. You guys can find me on YouTube doing my top 20 Marvel movies list and stuff like that, and just talking about, guys, I love movies. I've watched so many this year, and to come on a podcast and sit here and talk about one of the most fun ones in the theater I've seen all year and one of the best movies I've seen all year is such a cool experience. If you guys want to see more from us, we are part of an amazing network called the Gonna Geek Network. For all things even more geeky, head over to GonnaGeek.com and check out some amazing podcasts from our home network. And you can check us out on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and Pinterest, all at PopXcast. Send comments and suggestions via email at popxcast@gmail.com. And for future and past shows, please visit our official website, www.popxcast.com. And Joseph, thank you for being an awesome host and allowing us to talk about 2 movies tonight and doing it in a pretty daggone awesome fashion.
Well, it's my pleasure, my friend, and it's been a pleasure. And one thing that we do here at PopX is we don't do this for monetary gain or status. We do this because it's a labor of love. And it's a hobby podcast, and you know, when you lose vision of that and you're not having fun, then you know we're not even that considered that kind of podcast. So that's why we're so chill and laid back. We try to do what we do best. And of course, I'm Joseph Burke, aka Joseph Burke Arts, all over the web. Search me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, at Joseph Burke Arts, ARTS. On the web. And of course, hats off to my amazing team PopX, as always. Mr. Mike Ippolito in the room next to me. Right. Nice. Bernie chilling. I like it. Oh my God, that's such a great movie, Weekend at Bernie's. So that's it for this episode, number 80 of PopXcast. We want to invite you to join us next time. We have a scheduled date for July the 22nd for episode 81, where we will be doing the San Diego Comic-Con recap. So we will literally be coming off of that weekend, all the big announcements, all the film, all the movies, all the actors, all the stuff, the panels, and maybe even some cosplay clips here and there as well. But we are going to do a full San Diego Comic-Con episode. It's going to be daggone awesome. So awesome. Join us next time, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, Austin, are you good?
My friend, this has been a great show. It's been a great show.
It's been pretty awesome, right? All right, so from all of us here at PopX, thank you so much, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks on episode 81. Bye. From everyone at PopXcast, thanks for listening. Please make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/PopXcast, and click the follow button to get our live stream notifications. Drop us an email, popxcast@gmail.com. Be sure to check out this and more great content on the Gonna Geek Network at GonnaGeek.com. Get your geek on!